So before looking at absolute value functions, let's get a little bit of review of just what absolute value does. So absolute value finds the distance from 0, and then in short, it's the positive part of the number that you're looking at. So for example, if we're taking the absolute value of -3, it's equal to +3 is how we would simplify it. And you can think of the absolute value symbols like parentheses. They're just special parentheses. They have an operation to them, but they do group items like parentheses do. It's just to drop the parentheses, we need to think about the positive part of what's inside the parentheses. So this idea of it being the distance from 0, the idea is if I graph 0 on a number line, have 1, 2, 3, so where -3 is landing, I want the distance from 0, and distance is always positive. So that distance is 3 units that we're crossing there to get from -3 to positive, or to 0. If we want the absolute value of 0, well, the distance from 0 is 0, if it's 0. So if you have the absolute value of 0, it's just equal to 0. Absolute value of a positive number is just that positive number. 7 would have this distance of 7 away. And if we have an operation inside the absolute value, you want to simplify first. So this is where I was saying it's like parentheses. So what I would do is keep the absolute value symbol and take care of 2 minus 8, which is -6. And then the absolute value of -6 is +6 to drop the symbol. Here, same idea. We're going to simplify everything inside first. So 2 times 5 is 10. So we're just going to follow order of operations. It's just the absolute value symbol will line up with parentheses in terms of our order of operations. So 10 minus 7 is 3. So I have a 3 minus 9, which is -6. And sometimes students get uncomfortable with the fact that we get a negative number out when there's an absolute value involved. But notice that this calculation occurred once we were done with the absolute value. So we simplified to a 3, and then it's the operations outside of that that cause the negative number, and that's totally okay. Alright, and this last one, -4 times an absolute value, 2 minus 10, which is -8, and then a +5 on the outside. Before we can multiply, simplify your absolute value. So where it's an absolute value of -8, that's the same thing as +8. So that finishes simplifying the parentheses. Then we can multiply, then we can add. And if you want to check your answers with these, Desmos has the absolute value function. You can also find the kind of bars on your keyboard as well. What we could do is type in that -4, and then here next to the a to the b power, it's the absolute value. And inside we could type 2 minus 10. And then to get outside you can just click or hit the right arrow, and then we'll have +5 on the outside, and there's our -27.